Hello and welcome to Behind Blackflower. I'm Sarah. I'm the producer of 1968 Blackflower Drive.
Hi, I'm Brett. I'm the writer and director.
We want to let you know that these episodes are available as video podcasts as well, so please head over to our YouTube channel if you'd like to see the visuals. We're excited to provide our listeners with some stories and information about how this radio play was made. So let's dig into all things Behind Blackflower.
So we have with us some of our cast, which we have Ken, we have Mary Pat, we have Brian, we have Douglas. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of this whole thing. It's been an amazing adventure.
Thank you for having us.
For this whole thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Horrifically good times.
As you say, horrifically, I'm very curious because my first question to you all is, so this is a horror story. And we actually, when we were recruiting people to come into this whole process, they were like, horror? No, that's not my thing. It's not my jam. Yeah. So, are any of you horror fans?
I am. Yeah.
Yeah?
I would say.
Specific horror subgenres.
I'm exactly.
Vampires.
I'm there with you.
I like the vampires.
Yeah, there's certain.
So, what's out for you for horror?
No, that's what I'm into. I'm into slasher.
Slashers,
I
yeah.
like a slasher. I like to have a level of disassociation or like a disconnection from I like it to be fake enough.
Yes. So you can just kind of enjoy this is just all fake and I can just watch them doing their bad things.
Right. And I would say the line is audition.
Audition is too far? Or?
No, that's the line.
Yeah.
All right, so Human Centipede,
That's too far for me. That's that's over the line for me.
Got it. MP?
I avoid almost all things horror related.
So no horror.
No horror.
Okay, so then why were you okay with doing this?
Because I love you guys. And I really, I love working with you. And I love working with Sarah. And I wanted to support your efforts. And I was honored to be asked to use my talents in this particular way.
Well,
And it was very, very sweet of you. You went to some dark places. Are you cool with doing that, or you rather go let's do light or comedy kind of thing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say comedy is more my inclination.
Okay.
Or drama even. Horror, not so much.
Well,
Yeah.
you're fantastic at everything you do.
Oh, stop
And
it.
she has great comedic moments. Who's the lady in the flower shop? The lady that...
Mrs. Patterson.
Mrs. Patterson.
You gave me a lot of comedy to
That's
do,
a great one.
even in this genre. So
Well, you also brought a lot of that to it. You brought so much stuff of you did an interesting thing with that character where you would say the name of the
Mrs.
person.
Patterson, the character of Mrs. Patterson.
Mrs. Patterson,
Yeah.
you would say the person's name, oh Perry, or when you're talking to Barry, you go, oh Barry, and you'd say their name over and over again, which is a really interesting thing that wasn't in the script, but you did it, and it was it worked so well, and it was just what I loved about what all of you did is you brought your heart and your humor, which is I think very important for any story, but especially a horror story, because otherwise it turns into oh gosh, this is gonna be rough, and it turns into something that's you don't want to see. You're gonna be suffering through it.
It's those delightful moments of a palate cleanser to take you out of the And I love the where you say, oh, I'm 85. As you said that a bunch of times, and that's the explanation for whatever
pretty
you're
much
talking
anything
about.
that Mrs. Patterson is doing.
Exactly. And then Ken.
Yes, I love horror. I've never had a problem doing it. I haven't had a chance to do a lot of them, but if I could quickly answer your question with a question, I'm always interested in people's refusal to do things, And I've known a few actors who were very devout, and I think there's always a religious element to horror, sometimes devil stuff. Could you, without naming names, could you give us reasons why some people didn't want to do it? Is it the violence that some people were opposed to? Or?
It's even hearing that it's going to be a horror story, they're like, I'm going through some bad times now. I don't think I can go through that journey.
Interesting.
And considering also when I try to explain this whole thing, it's going to be 9 episodes, an hour long each. So it's going to be a big thing.
Why didn't you just tell them, well, you're not the lead, so relax. You got like a small parts. No kidding.
I never.
You can't do it for 10 minutes on a
wanted
Sunday.
to trick people,
Well, that's what I'm
but I'm
saying.
like, not all the time.
People are very sensitive.
Some people sniffed it out. They were like, "They're trying to make me do something I don't want to do." So let me ask you. Let me ask you this. So like, you all played parts that were like reoccurring characters that were like over many episodes, and also you played parts that were like just one-offs. Was there a preference?
Walla. I just like doing Walla.
I'll go.
Yes.
So I had Kelvin, I got to be Kelvin, who popped in and out, but also was this integral part of it. And that's actually I found that very difficult. And because I didn't necessarily have a sense the way you did, because we'll talk about Brett, who totally has mastery over this whole thing, and how impressed we are, and I was, with how you directed, and you could answer any question that anybody had. But there's something intimidating about coming in and then knowing that you're going to be back later for another little book, and hoping that that's consistent, because it's not a part I had worked on, or I hadn't played it before. So you have to be vivid, you got to be clear, and then somehow you've got to be that same person, but it's many hours later, or it's many days later. That's difficult. I think that's really hard. I actually think that's hard. The one thing that I like the most about myself that I didn't hate, is when I got to be that TV host, Tick Randall.
Oh my
Because
God.
that was like a nice sized scene. I forgot how big it was till I listened back. And it's a bunch of pages so you can get into it, and you go, okay, I lived through that whole scene. It's those little things that I actually found very difficult.
As opposed to the one scene from episode 3 that we recorded in February, and then the one scene in episode 7 that we recorded the following February.
That's hard.
I had to ask for vocal reference sometimes. But,
Bingo.
Yeah. The
But-
next time it came in.
I thought you did a really interesting thing, like when we recorded that scene when you were interviewing me. It was like we did it, and it was like, oh, it's good, it's pretty good, and it's a lot of exposition coming out there. And you said, can we do one more? And I want to just like really kind of get at you. And you had this, such a great way about you, where you were just like really getting at me, and just going like, hey, no, and joking around about with me and stuff like that. And I always find that like whenever we like overlapped, whenever we like talked over each other and just like got the ideas across versus the actual lines, it's like that's when it really worked. So
Yeah.
it was a really cool thing that you did, and you were like on me. During the scene, you were really interviewing me and put me to task, which is great.
And it helps the dramatic tension of that scene. That scene really ends up at a point where the audience, the listener, is saying, "Stop! Stop this show! Stop this program! Stop down!
Right.
You are being irresponsible with what's happening here." Like you really hit that point in that scene.
And that was you. You came in with that, which I found that to be like with everyone came in with like such an interesting perspective of like, this is what I'm going to do. And then it was like, all right, let's just guide it together to figure out what was going on. Like for instance, MP, you, I would notice that like it would in the script, it would say you're having a seizure. And you would actually be vibrating like off camera. Was that a conscious choice, or was it just like something you just did?
I think, you do your best, and it's so interesting when you're just doing voice work, but the physicality can help you so much with what you're trying to convey. So even though that wouldn't be necessary, you're not seeing me, I think just getting into that, you can get your heart rate going and sort of get your equilibrium off, and then bring that to your vocal performance.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that was about.
Do you like do that like let's say on another show or something like that? Do you like, is there a method thing that you do to kind of, or is it just independent on individual projects?
It's completely eclectic, my acting method. I would say I've grabbed from a million different schools and mentors, and just found what works for me. Yeah.
That's a good reason why you wear not noisy clothes.
In the sound
booth, yeah.
booth, yeah.
Well, the odd thing is that like for room tone, normally you go, hey, let's get room tone. Everyone be quiet. We'll get room tone for 30 seconds. I found it much more interesting to try to create a room tone outside of that. So, for instance, I'd say, like, what is important in the scene? Or what's something that would be in the scene, like a coffee pot boiling, or a fish tank, or a fireplace. And then I would just have that play. Instead of trying to get the actual thing that's going on. So it would have this... And the weird thing is, it would connect oddly with the scene.
It was nice, like the cop pulling someone over. You know, there's just that one nice little nighttime sound effect that's going on there, and it just really drops
usually
me into
crickets.
it just snaps me into the scene, and then when that goes away, it's done.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really excellent way of giving a reason to something that also helped cover our recording flubs.
Yes, that also helped. Yeah, because we'd have people would be like acting, and then the microphone would do this, and so.
Well, and we recorded it in the world's squeakiest,
Yeah.
the room with the squeakiest floors.
And what was the choice there? Was that a horror driven choice to record in the squeakiest room?
It was a choice that it was just the two of us doing this, and we had no funds to rent a space, and it's a very large project, 9 episodes,
Yeah.
with 25 cast. I mean, we've said it before, it took us 18 months just to record it.
Did that room live like that
because-
for 18 months?
Yes, it
Yeah.
did. Anytime we had guests, they were on a
On the
blow-up
couch.
mattress in the living room instead.
Or a hotel.
But we needed to be able to at any point have people come for 2 hours and then leave. So it was really just driven from scheduling being a challenge and funds being non-existent.
Well, once it was put together, and as I'm listening to it online, but hearing everything together, because when we recorded most of my stuff, it was just the 3 of us and doing all the narration. But now hearing the rest of the cast, and I was saying to you earlier, the sound design and and the Foley and the music, I was like on the edge of my seat, and I'm like, oh my god! But I know exactly what's gonna happen, but I'm still like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
You literally are telling the story.
I am, yes.
Getting to hear it all together, I
Yeah.
think for all of us, because we did record it over such a long period of time, and we never got to hear what the score and the sound design was all going to be like. And I just think it's incredible because it was so DIY. I love that
Yeah.
the way the limitations and the quote mistakes, I love how that all got incorporated. And this is what I think is magical about making art. It gets incorporated in a way you could never predict and can elevate the project. And
That's
it's
very
amazing.
kind. And I'm always happy about, like, when you find that those happy accidents.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, if I'm working on a song or something like that, and I mess up on a chord, and I go, oh no, that's better. And then you find that accident. So, like, it's just like when everyone's like doing their lines and like they mess up, but it's better. It's somehow it makes it more human, or it's just like that makes it's funnier, or it's more profound.
But the end product does not feel accidental. Like the end product, because
Right.
of, I think specifically as it goes to sound design, I think specifically the pairing of the sound design and the score, I always know, oh, well, I'm changing to a new scene. Like, I'm never confused. Like, oh, are we still? Is that still that old scene, or is it something else? So
Music breaks, yeah.
So those two pairings, right, which are just that. So your FX and your MX tracks, are really complementary to that. And then when you add the narrator element on top of it, it's just really connected, responsible storytelling that helps the listener know where they are, and it doesn't feel accidental.
Yeah, and I'm going to give Brett a little boost on that one because that was actually intentional, and the music breaks are written in the script. So it was something that you had intended on from the moment that you turned this into a radio play, as opposed to the television script that we discussed earlier.
I will also say though, give it back to you because something you said early on.
I didn't do any of the music. So I brought in instruments. I tried to do music.
Which doesn't make any sense. But you said something in the beginning when we talked to you about doing this whole podcast. You said like you want consistency. You want to have kind of like a thematic thread through the whole thing. And so this is one of the reasons why I came up with the whole 4 H words. Mm-hmm. That we want horror, we want heart, we want humor, and heft. And that came from you to like ground everybody, telling everybody the same kind of thing. So we're all looking for those same things throughout.
Living in the same world.
Yeah, and so it's just like getting that tone. And that came from you. You really like impressed upon me that idea of like, keep it consistent, especially since we didn't even know there was going to be 18 months that we were recording this
No,
thing.
we certainly didn't think it was going to take
Right,
that
we
long.
thought it was going to be like 4 weeks and a weekend and we'll be fine. But since it took so long.
I certainly didn't think 18 months, but Brett thought much, much shorter, and I was like, there's no way this is happening in less than a year. And he's like, no, we'll get this done in 6 months. We're going to put it out in like January 2024.
Yeah,
Wow.
I totally thought.
And here we are, January 2025.
25.
All right, so let me ask you this. Ken,
Yes.
so now pick a character that you played. You played a few characters. Can you imagine what they looked like or what they dressed like?
I definitely see clothes for Kelvin felt, jeans, flannel, t-shirt. Am I right?
No, it's whatever you brought in. Yeah, no, it's true. And then what did he look like? What was the hairstyle? What was did he had facial hair? How were
No,
his
he
teeth?
feels clean shaven. He feels
Clean shaven?
He feels well, yeah, he feels younger than I am. He feels rural. He feels kind even though he's seen a lot. There's an innocence to his lack of innocence, if that makes any sense. But
Yeah,
does that help?
What would he have in his pockets?
That's a good question. Probably graham crackers and maybe a screwdriver, some gum,
You know,
Yeah.
and some balled up napkins or Kleenex.
It's
That makes
funny-
sense.
It's funny because listening to the Kelvin character, which was awesome, by the way. In my mind, you know what I saw? I saw Larry, Daryl, and Daryl from the Newhart. Remember the
Yeah,
Newhart
this is
show?
my brother Daryl, my other brother
Or
Daryl.
a full-grown Dennis the Menace, which takes you real far back.
So then you also have a slingshot.
You know,
in
like
your pocket.
an adult Dennis the
Kelvin does have a slingshot. They're firing off the water balloon.
No, he just threw them.
He just throws them.
He
I'm
just
sorry.
throws them. That's all.
I did not read the script.
That makes
just
sense.
engineered
Mary Pat,
product.
one of your characters, what would they look like? What would they dress like?
Well, I have to go to Mrs. Potterson, and I think she just
A
looks
fan
like
favorite.
she's kind of tiny and hunched because she's 85. Okay?
Oh, she is.
She's 85.
She is
I don't know
85.
that one.
That's the word on the street.
And she's elderly 85, if you know what I mean. So she's-
Yes, because she kind of lies
she's
about
kind
her
of
age a
hunched
bit.
over. She lies about her age. I wasn't aware of that. I just thought I was old 85, but now I'm.
Well, you have to figure like when there's a time jump in the
Yes,
story,
yes.
and she still say, "I'm 85.
Yes, that is true.
I have excuses now.
Yeah.
I can say that."
Yeah.
Yeah. So tiny, and then how would they dress then?
Well, I feel like in the beginning when we first meet her, she's like I'm picturing like pink cardigan, like a fuzzy, bulky cardigan.
And how's her hair?
Her hair is boofy, white and boofy. She gets it done. It's the old once a week get it done.
Oh, yeah,
And then you
yeah,
just
yeah.
keep it intact all week.
Does she wear makeup?
A little bit, yes, yeah. She got to jazz it up a little bit.
Okay, and how is it? Is it well done or is it a little?
It
off?
is well done. She doesn't take her lip
No, Mrs.
pencil and
Patterson
and
keeps
do her
herself
brows.
Yeah.
only once did that happen.
That's fair.
I want to go to the beauty parlor when Mrs. Potterson's in there and just sit and listen to her while she's under the hairdryer and just talking.
Douglas, any character that
Yeah, I'd go with Gil, and Gil, when I would picture him, it is from his government job, everything but the tie. So
everything but the tie?
He's ready. He has a tie nearby that he could put on and go and be plugged back into the system.
So completely like fastidiously clean and immaculate, or what do you?
Yeah, I
mean?
think he's got an Oxford on. I think that there's a coat and a tie in reach that he could get called back up into the big leagues.
What's his haircut?
It's just grown out. It's like 2 weeks past federal regulations.
Boxers or briefs?
Oh my, that's
wow.
personal.
Yeah, it's very.
No, I think he's a briefs person because he's just trying to keep everything under control.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
It's funny because listening and hearing more of Gil, and obviously your Curly, which is hilarious. when Gil comes on, I'm listening to it, and I've known you 25 years, right? We're friends. Like, wait, yeah, at least. And I'm like, wait a minute, because I don't know who's playing every single character. I'm like, that's Douglas. That's Douglas. and it took me a minute. To really think about it. So great job.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
good.
Yeah,
I think everyone did a really great job coming up with really independent voices for their characters. So much so that Brett's mother didn't realize that he was Perry. So
She's like, "Are you in it?"
Oh, wow.
I'm like, "Yeah, I play a small part, but what are you gonna?"
Oh my goodness.
Well, you going from a 16-year-old character
Right.
to
Yeah,
an
yeah, that's
85-year-old character.
I mean, it's such a treat to get to play that kind of, range and get to do different character voices. In terms of my prep, it was short and deep and almost immediately before the sessions. I didn't live with the script between everything because this is not how I could go about my life in the world. So, short, deep, come in, completely relying on your direction to know if we got it, completely trusting that you would get what you wanted, and then I would just walk away. I didn't live with it after.
Wow, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Kenny, what about you?
A lot of what she said. My prep was short and usually started a couple days right before the session out of a sense of panic that I haven't given the 70, 80, 90 pages, which I never
Per
had.
episode.
I didn't write. I never had 70, 80, 90 pages of dialogue, but you're trained and you learned you need to know the whole world, and I had a sense of there was no way I was going to know the whole world. And so I'm a loser, and I'm going to show up relatively unprepared, but I'm showing up, and that's 80% of it or 90% of it. And I relied entirely on you and was so impressed because I figured if you were happy, it was probably okay. And you certainly knew every answer and nuance to these characters. And and then when I was done, I pretty much left it with a general sense of doubt and hope that you got what you needed,
Doubt and
sure.
hope. That's so good.
Yeah, I just hope you got what you needed, really.
Never mind.
Yeah.
So we did a reading, and it was with Brian and Mary Pat, and we also had Max and Sarah, and we divided up all the parts, and just to hear what it would be like. It took 5 nights.
You were there, weren't you?
No,
He was not there.
in spirit.
He was there in spirit. So it took 5 nights, and we did like 2 episodes per night, except the last night we said like no one gets to know what the final episode is going to be.
Yeah, we read
I mean,
that call.
As an actor, the most amazing thing about that process was, I feel like we did very little preparation for the cold read. We were just getting through the script really, and you wanted to hear it out loud and sort of get the flow and everything. So we had a sense of the character, and you're always very good about saying who the character is and what's going on. But then I think when it came to the actual recording of the radio play, you took the seeds of what we just brought to the cold read spontaneously. and sort of kindled those instincts into the full-fledged characters. So it was really quite amazing because it was very just an instinctual base for the characters.
So how much rewriting did you do between cold read and recording, and how much rewriting did you do during the recording?
Actually, the thing that was really interesting from the read through with multiple people is we actually cut down the narration a lot. There was a lot more narration in the first pass of the radio play. Because there's a lot of story to be told, it's a very dense, journey. But hearing it out loud, performed by wonderful actors, let us both realize that a lot of what we need to get across is going to come across from our performers, and that we don't have to have as much.
Right.
And and then Perry coughed.
Right.
Kind of thing. Like, because that was that kind of stuff that was in there. Perry
There was,
coughed,
yeah,
or Violet, the narrator would say, and Violet burst into tears.
You can hear it.
Violet's going to burst into tears. We don't
right.
need to have that said. So that was actually a really important realization.
Well, it's a funny thing. We would have this thing where, like, we go, can I put that in brackets?
Yeah,
'Cause
Brett
we would
does
do
not want to cut anything.
We would do a read through before we'd send out the script. And I would say, like, can I have that in brackets so the actor knows at least what's supposed to happen there? And so sometimes it was just a clue to the actor, like, this is what's going on. Like, this is funny to them. Or this is, like, pisses them off. So you have that in there in the brackets, and the narrator doesn't have to explain it. The performance comes out. And then also, we'd also go through a final cut, too, of when we hear the whole thing played out, we go, we don't need that description.
Yeah, there's been times during the editing process that we have cut out narration because something that we didn't think was going to read auditorially ended up really working. And
Did you guys like I liked the brackets and the scripts because coming in, since we're not doing like big reads before we perform, anything that helps drop me into the scene was helpful.
Yeah, brackets, the stuff in brackets was so many hints in there to bring to the performance.
And this is a very interesting thing that we'd go through because Sarah comes from a AD point of view of like, let's get it done, let's get it recorded, let's get this whole thing. And I'm sitting there going, this is what the artist needs to get through.
But you got to make the day.
So it's like it has right. So it comes to that like duplicity of like going, all right, this is what I'm bringing, and then so we both learned, I think.
Yeah, definitely there was some growth, a further understanding from each of us about the lives of the other.
Right.
And
So we would just go like you
those are
go.
really valuable.
We don't need to have him say that.
Right.
Bracket it. So that's helpful for the actor, and then it also more efficient to the storytelling.
Yes, it was a great compromise.
Mm-hmm.
Brackets,
The bracket.
everybody. If you are
Brackets is the
struggling
way
to
to
come
go.
up with a compromise with your partner, just bracket it.
I have a question for you, Ken. That the scene on the porch between Kelvin and Cheryl Herring, where he's trying to keep her from going inside the house, so intense.
Yeah.
And the character, Kelvin's character, it was to me at the same time menacing and almost sweet, and trying to save her because he knew it was going to happen. He had an idea.
It was a
happen.
breakpoint
Yeah.
type situation.
So what was
That was
like?
actually that was challenging, and hopefully you feel like it worked. That's a hard thing to do, to feel that there's nothing visual, and you know that this character is behaving in a certain way when they're not speaking, and the narration takes care of it, and so you just hope that when your mouth opens up and those words come out, that it has all the things that you just described.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it out of bounds for this conversation right now? Because that, just bringing up that scene does make me think of how y'all were perceiving the house. how you were visualizing the home, how you were
Oh, that's a
visualizing
great question.
aspects of
Great
it.
question.
Because I had like that was like one of the most enjoyable like
That's really cool.
thrills for me.
Yeah.
Both in reading the scripts and performing, and then also while listening to it, because when you bring up that scene, it's absolutely like my head is moving around like a camera around that porch. I'm getting angles on these people.
Yes,
and I'm,
absolutely.
you know, in my mind, I have this, you know, wraparound porch type situation, and I know where the staircases are, and I know, and like how the windows look, and how like when they're looking in from the van through the windows, like all of these things. But that scene was like one of those ones where it's like, oh man, I am watching this scene. So anything that popped in.
This is
your
irrational, but I'll say I always felt like the wood was so old and untreated that it was gray.
Yeah, gray and
Right
black.
or wrong,
Yeah.
I just felt like everything was gray.
No,
and
that's
and it felt like it, whether it did or not, that it was a horror house that did not match the neighborhood it was in. Whether that's true or not.
no.
Right.
Oh, that makes sense.
What, did pop, anything pop for you?
Yeah. Oh, to me, the house was like a combination of like Poltergeist and Amityville, and I could in certain scenes I could almost see the house kind of inhale and exhale, and almost and at times just be dormant, just like that, and just be a house, and then the flip of a switch, it's your
It's
worst
its own
nightmare.
character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the house is definitely.
That's what
Okay,
I'm saying. It was
yeah.
such a character that like things would pop in my head, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
well, I know exactly how this,
And
I
like-
know how the panes of the glass are divided up, and all this kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, I could see like what you were just saying. I could see everything in those scenes, and
And Pete, did you visualize the house at all?
Well, I realized when you asked that question, the house I was visualizing is a house that was on our farm when I was growing up. That was like, it was a house that had many extensions on it, and I think especially once you started to go up the stairs, and that's the house I was picturing, with very narrow staircase and narrow hallways, and also weird hallways. And I didn't live in this house, so I was never completely familiar with it. But when you were upstairs, you could go down a hallway that wasn't the hallway you thought you were in, and there wouldn't be a door where you thought there was a door. It was confusing, and that is the house that I was picturing.
Wow,
Yeah.
so you were
and,
using a real reference.
and also the faded wallpaper. I realized that was in my mind as well.
That totally makes sense. Yeah. I wanted to see where everything was, and then even to the point where I had Legos, and I was building the house.
We still have little Lego portions of the house.
To like to
Oh, wow.
develop what the house would look like, so I knew exactly where everyone was. Where's the railing? Where's the staircase?
Just
where
what
are
you
the
just said.
doors?
Oh, so I had graph paper, and then I had Legos, then I had mashed potatoes. And what did I do with the mashed potatoes?
First off, do you have any questions for either Sarah or I?
Ooh.
what were you thinking?
I was thinking I wanted to tell a story that I hadn't heard.
Goodman.
What was your all's decision on how many takes to do as it pertains to the production process, the editing, and quality of the performance?
I think Brett had a very clear vision about what he needed and how and what we needed to thread everything together. So that was a big driver of it. Quite frankly, schedule was a big driver of it, in terms of all of our wonderful performers donated their time and talent to this project. So we didn't want to take advantage of that huge gift. So that was some of it, just the practicality of that. And also, every single person that we brought in for this was amazingly talented, and so we never really found that we had to pull a performance out of anybody.
Who's the worst?
All right, so that's it for this episode of Behind Blackflower, and thank you very much, all of you, for joining us for this great thing. Hopefully, you've enjoyed our exploration into behind the scenes and how we made this whole extravaganza happen. And
If you have any questions, please feel free to email us at pryzonsbreak blackflower@gmail.com. The spelling is very tricky, so head on over to any of our socials or YouTube. The website and our email address are on there, along with ways that you can get in touch with these folks or follow them on their socials. Their bios are on our website. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok at 1968.bfd, and on YouTube you can find us at 1968bfd, no dot. Like, subscribe, follow, ring the notification bell, comment, rate, review, on whatever platform you're listening
Smash
or
that
watching us to. And we can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, our website, Acast, and pretty much anywhere that you listen to podcasts. So we hope you keep listening.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Wonderful cast.
Thank you.